What if I told you that the world as we know it is on the brink of profound change, and that this transformation begins with each of us, our thoughts, our actions, and even our connection to the earth? Imagine walking through a dense forest, the sun filtering through the leaves, casting dancing shadows on the ground. You feel a deep sense of peace, but there's also an awareness that this forest, like so many others around the world, is under threat. The birdsong that fills the air, the vibrant green canopy, the rich soil beneath your feet, these are all part of a delicate web of life that is increasingly unraveling. It's hard not to feel overwhelmed by the enormity of the challenges we face: climate change, species extinction, social injustice, and the degradation of the planet's ecosystems. You stop for a moment, standing still in this natural beauty, and ask yourself, what can I do? How can I, just one person, make a difference in the face of such global crises? This is where the story of Joanna Macy begins. Macy, a renowned Buddhist scholar, environmentalist, and activist, has spent her life exploring this very question. She has dedicated her work to helping people understand that they are not powerless in the face of these challenges, that they are, in fact, deeply connected to the earth and to each other. Through her teachings, she offers a pathway for navigating our despair and transforming it into action, into hope. Macy's work is about more than just environmental activism. It is about fostering a deep, spiritual relationship with the world around us and recognizing the power we each hold in shaping the future. What makes Joanna Macy's work so unique and transformative? How has she managed to weave together such diverse fields as Buddhism, ecology, and social activism into a cohesive and actionable philosophy of life? Through a deep dive into her life, teachings, and philosophy, we can begin to appreciate the depth of her contributions to our understanding of the world and our place in it. Early life and educational background. Born in 1929 in New York City, Joanna Macy grew up in a world that was undergoing rapid industrialization, social upheaval, and environmental change. These early experiences shaped her awareness of humanity's impact on the world, but it wasn't until much later in her life that she would fully develop the ecological vision that she is now known for. Her early intellectual pursuits were in the fields of social work and sociology, which gave her a deep understanding of human behavior, societal structures, and their impacts on both individuals and communities. Initially, her focus was on international development and peace work, which allowed her to travel and immerse herself in different cultures. Macy earned a doctorate in religious studies from Syracuse University and eventually transitioned into academia, where she taught philosophy, religion, and sociology. These early academic experiences, combined with her extensive travels, provided the intellectual foundation for her later work. However, it was during her time living in India that she first encountered Buddhism, a philosophy that would come to profoundly shape her worldview and her approach to ecological and social issues. It was in India that Macy first encountered the Buddhist principles of interbeing and impermanence, two concepts that would become cornerstones of her life's work. The idea of interbeing, the understanding that all things are interconnected, resonated deeply with her. She recognized that this Buddhist teaching aligned closely with ecological thinking, which also emphasizes the interconnectedness of all life. The concept of impermanence, the understanding that all things are in a constant state of change, further deepened her understanding of the world and the ecological crises we face. Rather than seeing environmental degradation as a permanent state, Macy began to understand it as part of a larger cycle of change, one that humans could influence through collective action. In addition to her academic and spiritual pursuits, Macy was also deeply involved in political activism during the Cold War era. She participated in anti-nuclear movements, drawing connections between the proliferation of nuclear weapons and the degradation of the environment. This fusion of political activism, environmental awareness, and Buddhist spiritual practice laid the foundation for what would become her life's work, helping individuals and communities confront global crises in a way that fosters both personal transformation and collective healing. The influence of Buddhism on Macy's ecological thought. Buddhism plays a central role in Macy's worldview, providing both the spiritual grounding and ethical framework for her ecological and social activism. The principles of Buddhism, particularly those of compassion, mindfulness, and interconnectedness, are woven deeply into her teachings and practices. One of the core Buddhist concepts that Macy emphasizes is dependent origination, or pratyaya samutpada, which posits that all phenomena arise in relation to others. This view aligns with the ecological perspective that all life forms and ecosystems are interconnected, mutually dependent, and influenced by the same natural processes. In her work, Macy draws attention to the fact that the destruction of one part of an ecosystem inevitably impacts the whole. This is not just a scientific or ecological observation. For Macy, it is a spiritual truth. Human beings are not separate from nature but are part of the vast web of life. Every action we take has consequences, both seen and unseen, that ripple through this web. For Macy, understanding this interconnectedness is essential for any meaningful ecological action. Macy's understanding of impermanence also influences her ecological thought in profound ways. Impermanence, or anicca, is a central tenet of Buddhism that teaches that all things are subject to change, decay, and renewal. This principle informs Macy's belief that environmental activism must be grounded in a long-term view of human existence and planetary health. Rather than seeing the degradation of ecosystems as a permanent or irreversible state, Macy believes that renewal and transformation are always possible through collective action. This sense of impermanence is not about passivity or resignation, rather, it is about recognizing the potential for change and taking action to shape that change in a positive direction. Isn't that a hopeful way to look at the world? Another key component of Macy's work is the Buddhist practice of mindfulness. In her teachings, mindfulness is not just about being present in the moment, it is about cultivating a deep awareness of our connection to the earth and all living beings. Macy believes that by fostering mindfulness, individuals can overcome the sense of alienation from the environment that so often characterizes modern life. This alienation, according to Macy, is one of the root causes of the environmental crises we face. By reconnecting with the earth through mindfulness, we can begin to heal both the planet and ourselves. Can you imagine the power of a world where everyone is truly mindful of their impact on the planet? Perhaps one of the most powerful concepts in Macy's teachings is the Bodhisattva Path, a central Buddhist ideal that emphasizes compassion and the willingness to work for the well-being of all sentient beings. In traditional Buddhist practice, the Bodhisattva is someone who has attained enlightenment but chooses to remain in the world to alleviate the suffering of others. Macy extends this concept to environmental activism, encouraging individuals to adopt the Bodhisattva vow not just in their personal spiritual practice, but as an ethical framework for ecological and social action. The Bodhisattva's mission, as Macy interprets it, is not just about individual salvation, it is about collective healing and transformation. Protecting the planet and ensuring the survival of future generations is, for Macy, an extension of the Bodhisattva's compassionate mission. Isn't that such a beautiful and inspiring call to action? The work that reconnects, a pathway to ecological and social healing, one of Macy's most significant contributions to the fields of ecology and social activism is her development of the work that reconnects, WTR, a pioneering method that integrates Buddhist teachings, deep ecology, and systems theory to empower individuals and communities to confront global crises without falling into despair. The WTR is designed to help people move through their feelings of grief, fear, and helplessness in the face of environmental destruction and social injustice, and to transform those emotions into motivation for action. This process is as much about emotional and spiritual healing as it is about ecological and social activism. Isn't it amazing how Macy recognized the need for both inner and outer transformation? The work that reconnects is built on 4 stages. Coming from gratitude, Macy believes that cultivating a sense of gratitude for life is essential for recognizing the beauty and interconnectedness of the world. By acknowledging the gifts of life, individuals can build a foundation of hope and resilience, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. Gratitude, according to Macy, is a practice that opens our hearts to the world and helps us see the abundance that surrounds us. Can you imagine how transformative it would be if we all began our work for the earth from a place of gratitude, honoring our pain for the world, rather than avoiding or suppressing feelings of grief, anger, and fear about the state of the planet? Macy encourages people to fully experience and express these emotions. She argues that these feelings are natural responses to the suffering of the world and that by honoring them, individuals can deepen their commitment to healing. For Macy, grief is not something to be feared or avoided, it is a powerful force for transformation. By acknowledging our pain for the world, we can move through it and find the strength to act. Doesn't that make so much sense, especially in a world where we are often told to push aside our feelings and just keep going, seeing with new eyes? This stage involves a shift in perspective, where individuals come to see themselves as part of a larger living system. Through this lens, they can recognize the interconnectedness of all life and the potential for positive change. This stage draws heavily on the Buddhist principle of interbeing and the ecological understanding of systems thinking. By seeing the world through new eyes, we can break free from the destructive patterns of thinking that have led to our current crises. Isn't it exciting to think about the potential for change that comes from simply shifting our perspective? Going forth, the final stage is about taking action. With a renewed sense of purpose and connectedness, individuals are encouraged to engage in collective action, whether through activism, community organizing, or personal lifestyle changes that reflect their ecological values. For Macy, the journey of transformation is not complete until it leads to action. Going forth is not just about making a difference in the world, it is about embodying the change we wish to see. What actions will you take after reading this? How will you go forth and make a difference in the world? Macy's workshops and trainings have helped countless individuals and groups around the world move from feelings of despair and paralysis to empowered action. The work that reconnects has been used by environmental activists, educators, and community leaders as a framework for addressing ecological destruction, social injustice, and personal alienation. It fosters a deep sense of belonging and responsibility, encouraging people to act not just for themselves but for the broader web of life. Isn't it inspiring to think about how many people have been transformed by this work and how much potential there is for even more transformation? 4. The Great Turning, a vision for a sustainable future. Another key concept in Macy's work is the Great Turning, a term she uses to describe the necessary and inevitable transition from an industrial growth society to a life-sustaining civilization. The Great Turning represents a fundamental shift in human consciousness and behavior, where economic and social systems are reoriented toward ecological sustainability, social equity, and spiritual well-being. For Macy, the Great Turning is not just an abstract idea, it is a process that is already underway, driven by countless individuals and organizations around the world. Isn't it exciting to think that we are already living in the midst of this Great Turning? Macy sees the Great Turning as a global movement that involves 3 dimensions of action, holding actions. These are efforts to slow down the destruction of ecosystems and human communities. Examples include environmental activism, legal action to protect endangered species, and efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Holding actions are essential for buying time, but they are not enough on their own. We need to go beyond just preventing harm. We need to create new systems that are sustainable and just. Do you see yourself as part of this holding action, working to slow down the destruction? Structural change. This involves the creation of new social, political, and economic systems that prioritize sustainability and equity. Examples include the development of renewable energy technologies, the promotion of circular economies, and the establishment of policies that protect natural resources and human rights. Structural change is about transforming the very foundations of our society so that they support life, rather than destroy it. Can you imagine what our world would look like if we made these changes on a global scale? Shifts in consciousness. The most profound and far-reaching dimension of the Great Turning is the transformation of human consciousness. This involves a shift away from the individualistic, consumer-oriented mindset of the industrial growth society toward a worldview that recognizes the interconnectedness of all life. Spiritual practices, such as those rooted in Buddhism, play a key role in fostering this shift in consciousness. Macy believes that this shift in consciousness is the foundation for all other change. When we begin to see ourselves as part of the web of life, everything else flows from that realization. Isn't it powerful to think that the change starts with us, with how we see the world? Macy emphasizes that the Great Turning is not a distant, utopian future, it is a process that is already unfolding. Each individual has a role to play in this transformation, whether through small, everyday actions or through participation in larger movements for change. By embracing the principles of interbeing, mindfulness, and compassion, Macy believes that humanity can navigate this critical turning point and create a more just and sustainable world. Isn't it empowering to know that you are already a part of this movement, that every action you take contributes to the Great Turning? 5. Legacy and global impact. Joanna Macy's influence extends far beyond the academic and spiritual circles in which she initially operated. Her work has inspired a global movement of individuals and communities committed to ecological and social justice, and her teachings continue to resonate with activists, educators, and spiritual leaders around the world. Macy's legacy is one of hope, compassion, and commitment to the well-being of all life, and her work continues to inspire people to engage in the great turning toward a more sustainable and life-affirming future. Her books, including Active Hope, How to Face the Mess We're In Without Going Crazy, co-authored with Chris Johnstone, Coming Back to Life, and World as Lover, World as Self, have been translated into multiple languages and serve as foundational texts for anyone seeking to engage in meaningful ecological action. These books offer both practical tools and spiritual guidance for navigating the complex challenges of the 21st century. They are like handbooks for anyone who feels overwhelmed by the state of the world and is searching for a way forward. Have you read any of them yet? If not, perhaps now is the perfect time to dive into her wisdom. Macy's workshops and trainings have been held in countries across the globe, from North America to Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Her methods have been adapted by countless organizations, including environmental groups, peace movements, and educational institutions. Through her teachings, Macy has helped to cultivate a new generation of leaders who are committed to healing the earth and building a more just and sustainable world. Isn't it inspiring to think about all the people who have been touched by her work and how they are carrying forward her vision in their own communities? Conclusion: a life of compassionate action. Joanna Macy's life and work offer a powerful example of how spiritual practice, intellectual inquiry, and ecological activism can be combined to create meaningful change. By integrating Buddhist principles with systems thinking and deep ecology, she has developed a transformative approach to addressing the global crises of our time. Macy's vision of the Great Turning and her method of the work that reconnects provide both a roadmap and a source of inspiration for those seeking to navigate the ecological, social, and spiritual challenges of the 21st century. Her teachings remind us that we are not separate from the earth but are part of its living system, and that by recognizing our interconnectedness, we can find the strength and resilience to act. Joanna Macy's legacy is one of hope, compassion, and commitment to the well-being of all life, and her work continues to inspire people around the world to engage in the great turning toward a more sustainable and life-affirming future. Isn't it incredible to think about the impact one person can have on the world? Macy's work is a shining light in the darkness, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming challenges, there is always hope. There is always the possibility for transformation. What will you take from her teachings? How will you carry forward her legacy in your own life? The Great Turning is already happening. What role will you play in it?